blows my mind that the lab, has in a relatively short period of time, doing so many different projects with such great impact. Like I'm blown away by the scope of what you're doing and what you're achieving. In my head though, and I know it's probably the question that people watching this will say is like, how can we leverage what you're doing, to really be able to do similar projects? Like what tools, what resources, how could we also do it in our environment as well?
So everything, all of the design, we're a lab, right? So we're experimenting. This is why I say it's fun stuff. We're trying things. It doesn't all work, and we don't go into our challenges or our projects with all of the answers. We do not have all of the answers, but just about everything we're doing could be scaled and shared with the Australian, market and my colleagues there. I have great friends like you, Margo, that are living halfway across the world, and we know that we find time and manage to make it work with our distances and our time changes. But the work that we do, scalability happens to be one of our design criteria that we adhere to. The issues would be for your audience as to how much of it relates to what they know in their world and their context, and thinking about how we take our lens. My lens is very US driven, and as much as I try not to be egocentric, it is very common for us as Americans to be such. So I think we'd have to play and try, and I think most of these projects that I'm talking about could have relevance if some of the same challenges, if you're facing some of the same challenges in New Zealand and Australia.
And I know we are, right? So that was hence part of the why I asked that question. The project around rural communities and the Bridges project, we've got the same geographical challenges here, right? We are a big country with, very sparse population, but the education opportunities in rural areas are limited. And so, I see enormous potential around a lot of the projects that you've got started. For us, it's also around military and transition and taking not just military, but even, the non-formal education experiences and being able to represent and recognize those as well. So yeah, I see a lot of similarities, whilst, culturally there will be differences. But at the base, we have the same issues, we have the same challenges, just on a little bit small scale, right? So, I think the work that you and the lab are doing is phenomenal. I always have. And, I really wanted an opportunity for people to understand that and to hear about it. So thank you so much for taking the time, to really unpack those for us today.
If you were mentioning rural, Margo, I think so COVID has been so disastrous and difficult, and it's been a terrible thing for so many. But I'm hoping one of the positive things that might emerge is that the lack of infrastructure, internet infrastructure in many of those rural communities that were otherwise unserved, I'm hoping globally that we're able to increase the access to broadband and to other technologies, because in order for many of these things to really roll out in a way that's going to impact those communities the most, they've got to have access, and we've got to figure out ways to mitigate the digital divide and the technical limitations. The travel becomes onerous and very difficult to get individuals that either don't have transportation, or it's so far to get there, or the services are not provided. We've got to optimize the technology to help the human, advancement along in this movement.
Yeah, 100%.